בוקר טוב ושלום לכולם.
Good morning to everybody. Please be seated. Hello everybody, I'm Keidar and I'm the COO of the Taub Center for a full 3 weeks. I'll also be moderating this conference. I'm very excited and honored to be here in this wonderful forum of people who are here physically, and we're happy to host you in our annual Center of Inequality in Health, Defining Challenges and Developing Solutions. This conference will take place in English and in Hebrew. You'll be able, if you want to hear translation, you can take headphones from outside, choose Hebrew or English. You can also view this conference in English and in Hebrew online. For those of you who are here, our first presentation will be in English. So this is the perfect time to go and take a headset from outside. In addition, I would be happy if you all silence your phones. If you're at home, you can do whatever you want. Throughout the day, we'll present the presenters in briefly, but you can view the biographies of all the speakers online. And let me just say a few words in English.
Good morning. My name is Keidar, and I am the Director General of the Taub Center, and I will be moderating the conference throughout the day. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the Taub Center annual Herbert M. Singer International Conference, this year on the topic of inequality in health, defining challenges and developing solutions. The conference will be taking place in Hebrew and English. For those of you who are with us who need simultaneous translation, headphones are available directly outside the auditorium. For those of you watching on live stream via Zoom, please note that you can choose your preferred language. We're also broadcasting live on our Facebook pages in Hebrew and English. Before we begin, please be sure to silence your cell phones. In the interest of time and getting straight to the issues and to the very interesting speakers, we'll keep our introductions of speakers very brief throughout the day, but you can access the complete bios of each speaker on the website. בנוסף, לאורך היום, נשמח מאוד לשמוע את העמדות שלכם.
I'd be happy to hear your positions, your opinions throughout the day. I would love to hear what interested you. If you're on Zoom or on Facebook, you are welcome to take snapshots, screenshots, upload them, send them to me. You can also use Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and you can see what other people have written. And even your questions will come up and go online. So you are very welcome to share anything you have to say with us, and I'd be happy to introduce the speakers in the session. Professor Avi Weiss is the president of Taub Center, Department of Economics, Ilan. He's the editor of Economic Inquiry. And thank you, Avi, for the very warm welcome at the Taub Center. Follow him. Stephen Taub will talk, president of the Henry and Marilyn Taub Foundation and member of the General Assembly, also a member of a real estate company, associate member of the JDC, and was a member of the consulting committee in the Taub Center. I would also like to thank Mr. Sendak, who's the nephew of Mr. Taub. And this annual conference that takes place, has been taking place till 2011, takes place because of the generosity of the Taub Foundation. Good morning to everybody, and welcome to all of you, those who are here physically, those who are here in spirit or in front of their computers. This conference is always very important to me, very moving, for a very simple reason, that I, on a personal level, learn a lot. I hear different opinions, different ideas. I always always hear something new. The whole issue of inequality in health, again, but not only in health, by the way. We know that inequality is important. We are a state with a relatively high level of inequality. Sometimes we understand the reasons for this, but just the fact that we understand the reasons, doesn't mean we shouldn't act What I would like to do today is to talk briefly and just to show you a few things that have come up from different studies. Again, a year and a half ago was Professor Chernyakhovsky. He was the expert in this field, and a few things that come up from his studies. The first is not, again, Dov's study, but Nadav's study. It basically shows us this very clear idea of geographical inequality. And as you can see that in specific geographies in the center of Israel and in Haifa, Tel Aviv, or other big cities, in Jerusalem as well, we see so many more doctors, female doctors, male doctors, than we see in the periphery. So that again maybe brings up or evokes some sort of thought here. If we move over to the next slide, you can see how do we do it. Okay, here it is. We can see that another way of viewing this from Dov's study, you can see the time needed to get to a medical center. And what we see here, and there's a lot of logic behind this, because when you talk about a national center, you know, maybe you talk about the types of treatments that, you know, there's no justification to build them everywhere because the number or the demand in a certain area is not as big. So, you know, when one builds different medical facilities or specific wards, they're not going to be erected everywhere, and then one is required to travel. So national centers are sometimes a little closer, but even in terms of a hospital, a nearby hospital, and the immediate service that is available if something happens that requires treatment, you know, people from the north or from the south, the periphery, have to travel so much more. So in terms of the medical treatment that one is able to get is really not as good, not as immediate in areas that are remote from the center of Israel. And this shows some sort of inequality in terms of access to health facilities when one does require this type of service. The final thing that I wish to say before calling upon Stephen to join us is that one can talk on the one hand side on differences, because when we talk about populations, definitely, but also periphery in comparison to the center, one can talk of differences between populations, and one can also talk about reasons for these discrepancies, meaning not always is every discrepancy or every difference, you know, mean or indicate that there is a problem of inequality in the health system. It could be that the problem stems from a different source. Not every discrepancy in results is translated into a fact that we have to create, you know, fundamental change in the health system. Let me show you something that has to do with socioeconomic status. This is from research, also Dov's research. It's pretty old, from 2013, but not much has changed. If you look by community or city or locality and look at the mortality rate, again, by socioeconomic status, we know that in Israel and around the world, the higher the socioeconomic status is, the higher the income per capita, so too the mortality rate is lower. So what we see here, the differences in mortality rate, or again, the child mortality rates, longevity, oftentimes this is related to the fact that there are socioeconomic differences between the population. So the source of the change is those socioeconomic differences. It's not necessarily differences in treatment in the health system. Of course, that can play a role as well. Today, I'd be happy to learn more about all these issues and to try and better understand what is happening in Israel, what we have to do in order to, again, tell the truth.
Zani has made it Stephen. Stephen, you are invited up to speak, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you, Avi, and good morning, everybody. Echoing Avi's remarks, I am pleased to welcome you to the Taub Centers annual Herbert M. Singer International Conference. Just last night, we celebrated the Center's 40th anniversary, and I'm honored to be here today, along with my wife, Benet, and the Henry and Marilyn Taub Foundation's Executive Director, Barbara Lawrence. The Center, which bears my family's name, means a great deal to us. The work that they do, informing and impacting policy in the areas of health, education, economics, and welfare, affects every segment of Israeli society. Today, we have the opportunity to participate in a world-class program of high-level speakers and panelists discussing one of the most important issues of our day, inequality in health. And while the Taub Center has been researching this issue for many years, the global pandemic has brought health inequality into sharp focus, pushing it to the forefront of public discourse. My remarks this morning would be incomplete without speaking about Herbert Singer, for whom this conference is named. 20 years ago, Herbert and his wife Nell joined together with my parents, Henry and Marilyn, and others, along with the JDC, to form what is now known as the Taub Center for Social Policy Studies. Herbert believed in the power of dialogue and research as ways to understand and address society's most pressing social issues. Today's program brings both of these things together on an international level, so it is fitting that this conference bears his name. May his memory be for a blessing. My congratulations to the Center on this important program, and thank you all for joining us today.